Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Black, and I am one of the Rogue Women Writers. We're a group of 8 thriller writers whose backgrounds range from intelligence officers to cops to psychotherapists to journalists. To let you know how this is going to go, for you participants in the Zoom room, you will be in the gallery during the reading, so please type any questions or comments in the chat bar. Those of you joining us on Facebook Live, please comment. The comments will be monitored and relayed to the authors in real time. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask it. The authors will be reading only briefly, so we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. All of the books discussed here tonight should be available through your local bookstore. 4 lucky registrants for this event will win a free book from one of these 4 authors. And so if you see an email from us in your inbox, open it. And as I said, my name is Lisa Black, and I'm the author of 19 novels featuring forensic specialists, which happens to be my former day job. And I'm delighted to be emceeing this event. So I will start with Heather Gudenkauf. Her family moved to Iowa when she was 3. Having been born with a profound unilateral hearing loss, Heather tended to use books as a retreat and became a voracious reader. She lives in Iowa with her family and a very spoiled German short-haired pointer named Lolo. In her new book, The Perfect Hosts, Madeline and Wes Drake have invited 200 of their closest friends and family for the most anticipated event of the year, a gender reveal party so sensational it is sure to make headlines. But the party descends into chaos, leaving one woman dead and a trail of secrets that agent Jamie Saldano must unearth as he battles his own demons. Heather likes to snack on Lone Tree Ranch granola and thinks the cotton candy cocktail is the perfect drink for a gender reveal party. See our website for the recipes. I was really dying to make one of those, but I couldn't quite get to the liquor store to get the cotton candy vodka. I've been making my own granola for years too, so it's so easy. It saves you a ton of money. But for my first question, I'm dying to know what inspired this book. You said there's been news reports of gender reveal parties going wrong, and what are some of those examples?
Yeah, so I typically get the ideas for my novels from the news, from media. And I noticed the last few years that there was this uptick in reports about gender reveals and something tragic happening along with that. And so there was one not far from where I live, very sad. The family, the parents to be, did a gender reveal involving pyrotechnics, and there was a mishap, and a family member died, and tragically. And out west, I read some accounts of the gender reveals, again, using pyrotechnics, caused a massive wildfire, and thousands of
Mhm.
acres of
Oh
wild
no.
were destroyed. And so I saw that and I thought, just, how very sad that, that here's this very special, happy occasion for families, and it ends in a very sad way. And I thought it'd be interesting to put a little twist on that and have, a thriller mystery where the mishap was actually intentional and
Mm.
wreaked havoc at the party. And then, and if you've been on social media and you've seen any of these gender reveals over the last few years, they're over the top, huge productions. They're almost like a wedding. And so I spent way too much time kind of filtering those and watching and just in awe of all that went into these parties. So it was kind of fun to be able to fictionally create my own gender reveal party for the book, which is completely over the top.
Yeah, kind of like I'm almost sorry that I'm too old to, then my friends all have grandchildren now,
Yeah.
so I don't have to go to gender reveal parties, and at the same time I'm kind of relieved. It's like not having children. It's like I had to go to enough baby showers. I don't think I'd want to have to do gender reveal parties too.
Kind of a lot.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to multi-award winning Howard University and Columbia grad Valerie Wilson Wesley is a former executive editor of Essence magazine. She has been an artist in residence, adjunct college professor, has written both fiction and nonfiction for adults and children in magazines including Essence, Family Circle, TV Guide, Ms., Creative Classroom, Scholastic News, and Weltwoche, a Swiss weekly newspaper. She's married to screenwriter and playwright Richard Wesley. In her new book, The Mysterious Death of Junetta Plum, it is 1926, and Harriet Stone, a liberated, educated Black woman, and Lovey, the orphaned biracial 12-year-old she is bound to protect, enter Harlem hoping for a new, less traumatic chapter in their lives at a boarding house for single independent women. It's run by Harriet's cousin Junetta, who she's never met. But tragic events lead Harriet to question Junetta's very identity and to wonder if she and Lovey are in grave danger. Now, Valerie's favorite snack is nuts, preferably unsalted.
Unsalted. And I also forgot red wine. I realized that I didn't put my beverage in.
Oh, okay.
So
I should have asked.
I should have remembered. That's what I enjoyed too.
So is this, I was looking over all your other books, and this seems to be your first historical mystery?
It really is. It is my first one. And I've written mostly PIs and of course 3 cozies, which prior to this. And this is the first one, the first of a series of 3. And it's really been exciting. I love, I've always loved research anyway. I was a former journalist. You research and you find things, and one path leads to another. And so just getting into history and reading every little bit of it and finding ways to really bring them into the characters that I created has been just really exciting for me. And, first one, it's a little scary, but very scary. But so far so good. I've started the second one now, which I'm working on.
So how did you research the world and Harlem specifically of the 1920s?
Well, I read a lot of books for one thing. Prior, a lot of Langston Hughes, of course, the Big C. There were things that really, really are important. Historical books dealing with that period. It was really the period. In the last year, there's been a lot of attention about the Harlem Renaissance because it's kind of the anniversary in so many ways. And so many things in so many ways, also history is repeating itself in odd kinds of ways. And so it was just something that it was easy to get into it, just to go to Google, go and find out what were they doing here? What were they getting old pictures of Penn Station in 1926 and understanding how it must have overwhelmed people then. Imagining myself my age, I'll be 78 next week, so I don't want to say.
Wow.
But it's seeing myself, understanding being a 26-year-old, what it would be like to be 26 at this particular point. It was just, I love writing it. And I've been very excited. And so far I got a good review from Library Journal, so I'm happy about that.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so starred review. So I was really excited about that. First time out with this, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully readers will enjoy it.
Cool. Very interesting. Okay, Marshall KARP was born in New York City and promptly wrote letters, parody songs, stories, skits, fun stuff, but didn't know he could make a living at it, so he entered Rutgers with a grand plan to be a dentist. Fortunately, he flunked freshman biology and started writing for the school newspaper, then fell into advertising for 20 years. He started writing at night, and during the next 20 years wrote a play, did a stint in Hollywood writing sitcoms, wrote and produced a feature film, returned to advertising, caught the dot-com wave, and finally wrote books. He's married with 2 kids, a grandson, and a dog. In the latest book, in his NYPD Red series, The 1159 Bomber, the city that never sleeps is afraid to get out of bed. A bomb explodes in a crowded New York subway station at exactly 11:59 a.m. The next day, no, p.m., sorry. The next day, a second blast. p.m.
AM.
a.m. Oh, I am right. Okay, a.m. The next day, a second blast rips through a busy department store, again at 11:59. NYPD Red detectives Kylie McDonald and Zach Jordan race against the clock in search of one man who has vowed to destroy New York City the way it destroyed my family. The 1159 Bomber has sections in it related to the book Don't Tell Me How to Die, and Marshall's character in that book, Maggie Dunn, enjoys monkey paws and chai tea.
Oh my God.
Tea. Uh, see our website for the recipes. I did not know what a monkey paw was and was hoping that they were like bear claws, but peanut butter and banana monkey paws sound great too. So you spent 20 years in advertising. So tell us, writers, how do we advertise? How do we get people to buy our books?
I can't tell you how to get people to buy your books. I can tell you how to write a book, which is think like your target audience. Don't try to write a bestseller. Don't try to write for the critics. Don't try to write for the publisher. Write for the readers. But I do want to go back to gender reveal. I realize that I'm in the Rogue Women's Writers group. Okay, and I'm a writer, but big reveal, I did not grow up as a teenage girl. However, I am a rogue, which is why I have two books out this year, one in March, one next week, which is pretty amazing. And the book over my shoulder, Don't Tell Me How to Die, it has convinced a lot of women that given 7 years and talking to 100 at least women, a man can write a book first person female and pull it off. And the publisher and I feel so good about the reception to this book that the first 12 chapters are in NYPD Red 8, the 1159 bomber. So my gift to the world. And monkey paws, I think I made them up. It just took
Really?
cinnamon. Well, yeah. The cinnamon swirl raisin bread, fresh baked, sliced peanut butter, bananas, drizzle with honey, and consume until you go into a sugar coma. It's great. It's great. It's great. It's great picnic food, and a picnic early on with Maggie, her sister, and her dying mother is like one of the more touching scenes where we get to see Maggie as a youth and see where she comes up with her plan for for getting through the last 3 months of her life 25 years later. Anyway, hey, thanks for inviting me despite my annoying Y chromosome. Okay.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay, cool.
The third book I ever wrote, I wrote first person male. The character was male, and I wrote it in first person. And it didn't get published, but nobody said. None of the agents I sent it to said that was a problem. So
I wouldn't have tried it except Maggie came into my head, and I tried to get her to jump into your head or somebody who had the experience. But and whereas I write about a book a year, this one took 7 years because I had to get the voice and I had to get it right. And it's the hill I was willing to die on. And I found a publisher who loved it. And a lot of readers I've been doing book clubs all over the country. It's so cool.
very fun. Okay, our fourth writer, Ellen BYRON, is a USA Today bestselling author and recipient of multiple Agatha and Lefty Awards, a two-time Anthony Award nominee, award-winning playwright, and non-award-winning TV writer of comedy like Wings, Just Shoot Me, and Fairly Odd Parents. She has written over 200 articles for national magazines, but considers her most impressive credit working as a cater waiter for Martha Stewart. She blogs with Chicks on the Case, is a lifetime member of the Writers Guild of America, serves on the National Board of Mystery Writers of America. Along with me, Ellen is a fellow chapter president of Mystery.
No, I'm actually at large. I'm not a chapter president. Les is our chapter president. God bless him.
A native New Yorker, Ellen lives in the Los Angeles area with her husband, daughter, and a rotating crew of rescue pups. In Crescent City Christmas Chaos, Ricky James Diaz gets the best present ever when her parents arrive in New Orleans for the holiday. Ricky hopes to jog her mom's memory about Ricky's adoption, but learns that her mother was blackmailed for years. But when the blackmailer is found dead at her home, Josepha becomes the primary suspect. Ellen's favorite snack is everything, but she's willing to cut it down to cut fruit or pretzels. Faith beverage, unsweetened jasmine green tea for the non-alcoholic. That's a very good choice. Sauvignon, Sauvignon. Okay,
Sauvignon
yeah,
Blanc.
yeah, that. Yeah.
And my favorite mixed drink would be a Pim's Cup, but I only get those when I'm in New Orleans.
Okay, for wine. So I went with the
Oh,
stuff I can't, the Chardonnay. I can pronounce Chardonnay.
yes. Oh,
So
by the way, I
before,
just have to say that Valerie gets the award tonight for best eyeglasses.
yeah, that's very true. That is
Also,
very
Valerie, my
true.
grandmother was born in 1900 in Harlem when it
Really?
was a heavily Jewish population. So,
Hmm.
and wealthy. She was wealthy. They lost all their money in the Depression, sadly, but it was,
Well, it's just the more well, yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
interesting to know.
fascinating.
Interesting.
Thank you.
So before we get into your new book, you were a producer and writer on Wings and many other comedies.
Yeah.
So tell us writers who want to break into the big bucks of Hollywood, how did you do it?
Well, I came up in a different time. I came up in the 90s, and the thing is, which was a blessing and a curse. And the blessing in the sense that there were large staffs then, there wasn't streaming. It was really network TV and some cable, but really with the emphasis on still network TV. The curse was that their women were like token slots. So I always joke that if I wrote an autobiography, I call it "They Have Their Woman, My Life in TV," because it was usually I had a writing partner, and so we were a 2 for 1. You got two women for the price of one, and so it would be us, and then usually maybe some lower level woman too, and if we were lucky, or it was just us, unless the staff was run by a woman with either on her own or with a man, and women showrunners were still very rare. But we did work with one, and then we worked with a team, male, women, and those staffs were much more evenly divided. The women made sure, which was great. But it was hard to break in, but it was also I don't know how you break in now. I do know that at least with comedy, it's a young person's business. It's very hard. It's very ageist. And especially comedy. And part of it is it's not completely unreasonable because humor evolves. I always talk about this when I talk about humor. The humor evolves, and what makes us laugh now isn't what made us laugh 5, 10, 20 years ago. Like now it's very meta, very social media. And so you really have to be up on that. And I've watched Saturday Night Live really since it started practically. And even now there are references I miss because it's all, it's like this. But you could really see it because sometimes on a couple of shows, we had a joke guy who would come in, and the joke guy was older than us, and he'd pitch jokes that like weren't of the time. He'd hit it sometimes, but a lot of times, and you sat there and go, oh, that's so old. It's also, especially if it's a multicam, and there's multi-camera and single camera. Multicams are like Wings, single camera like a Veep. With multicam, you have so much going on in a week because you're shooting live in front of an audience. So in one week, you're breaking stories for future episodes. You're tabling the script that's going to go into production the next week. You're doing post on the show that shot before to get it ready to go to network, and then you're also in production. So if it's an existing show, those actors, they're in and out. They want those run throughs at 10 in the morning, 11. They just want to come and do it. I think the Friends writers toward the end of the run were working like a day and a half out of the week. Um, but if it's a new show and you get those late run throughs, you can be looking at a page one, after dinner, like starting work at 7 p.m. And so it can be a very punishing schedule. But nowadays they're only like they're doing with streaming. It's like, we would do orders of 22, 24. They wanted more for Wings, but we just couldn't do it. But now like everything is 8, 10 episodes. 10 is a big
Yeah,
order.
yeah.
So,
Notice that.
yeah. So I'll shut up because I could go on for a long
Yeah.
time.
No, it's very interesting. But okay, we are going to circle back to Heather and ask her to read us part of The Perfect Hosts.
All right, so I'm going to read a section that just really leads up to the actual gender reveal. And so Madeline takes a step back, but Wes reaches for her hand. Where are you going? Let's do the honors together. He holds out the high-powered rifle toward her. Does she want to be the one to send a bullet flying 1,800 miles per hour toward a vintage truck holding an explosive device filled with blue or pink powder? No, she does not. Madeline does not like the feel of guns, doesn't like the heft of them in her hands or the cold metal against her fingers. She doesn't like the idea of how its simple mechanism can send a tiny piece through the air with such force that it can shatter bone, pierce a spinal cord, or eviscerate organs. Here we go, Wes says, smiling against her cheek. He increases the pressure atop the finger that is crooked around the trigger. No going back now. Madeline feels a surge of excitement shoot through her. This is it. 2, 1, the crowd shouts. Wes presses his fingers sharply against hers, and Madeline feels the bullet rip smoothly through the chamber. The kickback is immediate, and the butt of the rifle slams into the soft skin just below her collarbone. The truck explodes in a fiery ball, and she hears a chorus of oohs and ahs and excited laughter. Madeline looks to the sky, eager to see the plume of pink or blue smoke. But from behind her comes another eardrum crashing boom that ricochets against her skull. She is lifted from her feet. The reassuring nearness of Wes's body disappears, and the rifle flies from her fingers. For one panicked second, Madeline imagines the gun discharging a rogue bullet into the unsuspecting crowd, or worse, into her womb. A blast of heat envelops her, and Madeline can feel the fabric of her dress curdle against her skin. She closes her eyes, and for a moment she remains suspended in air. The world around her falls silent. She feels no pain, no sensations of any sort. It's a pleasant, floaty feeling, reminding Madeline of when she and her sister were young, lying together in a big black inner tube, legs intertwined, floating languidly down Prairie Creek. Then Madeline hits the ground hard, her breath lodging in her chest like thick sludge, blocking any air from reaching or leaving her lungs. Her eyes pop open. Around her, people are screaming, stumbling, clutching at one another's arms, clamoring to get away. Cowboy hats and wine glasses litter the ground. Where is Wes, Joanna? Unable to get up, Madeline looks into the sky. Black clouds hang heavily in the air. Has the storm arrived? No, it isn't that. Pain floods her limbs, her back, her head. Madeline's hands fly to her midsection. The baby. Is the baby okay? She tries to cry out, but a charred, burnt taste clings to the back of her throat. Snowflakes float lazily down, but that doesn't make sense. It doesn't snow at this elevation this late in May. Besides, Madeline thinks, giving way to the irresistible urge to close her eyes, snowflakes aren't pink.
So it's a girl. That's okay. Very, very cool. That does sound like the gender reveal party of the century. So the couple's ranch is in Wyoming, but Madeline comes from Lone Tree, Iowa, which has a population of about 1,300 and the home featured in the Grant Wood American Gothic painting. And your detective, Jamie Saldano, also has a connection to Lone Tree, but so do you. So tell us about your connection to Lone Tree, Iowa.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I actually was born in South Dakota. That's where my entire family is from, but grew up in Iowa. But it wasn't until my sister moved near Lone Tree, which is southeastern Iowa, and she learned through my uncle, who had been doing some genealogy research, that my great-great-grandfather and some other family members were buried at the Lone Tree Cemetery. And we had grown up our whole lives in Iowa not knowing that. And he'd kind of gotten lost to time. And so it was really fun and interesting to be able to go to Lone Tree, which is only about less than an hour from where I live now, and to be able to visit the cemetery and see that history, my ancestors being there. And so I wanted to kind of highlight that because most of my books are set in Iowa, like squarely in Iowa. And for this book, I needed to my characters out of their comfort zone and move them to Wyoming. And it was my little nod to Iowa and great grandpa.
Yeah,
Great,
that's
great.
kind of how I am about Cleveland, you know. So you learned a lot about horses, horse ranching, caring for horses to write this book. What were some of the more surprising things you learned, and did you use them in the book?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So my husband and I, we travel out west, for the past few years we have. And one of my favorite things to do is to be able to go on trail rides. And I was working on this book during one of our visits, or two of our visits, and I was able to bend the wrangler's ear a lot about horses and because I think in a different life I may have been a cowgirl, but I'm so far from that now. But I love horses. They're such gentle creatures. And what I really learned from the Wrangler was, just how the care of them is so intricate. I mean, there's so many things with their health that you need to keep in mind. And
Mhm.
she gave me a little because there's some a little bit of intrigue in the book about the horse business and selling horses and that whole industry. And it was really interesting to learn how bad players would manipulate the system in order to try to make as much money as possible off the sale of horses. So that was something that I found very interesting as I was researching. But one fun fact is there are a few of the horses that I mentioned in the book, Blackjack and Maze. Those are the horses that I rode at this particular horse ranch. And they were so sweet that I just had to give them a place in the novel.
Very cool. I mean, I in Florida, and one of my coworkers at the crime lab, not crime lab, crime unit, the CSI unit at my police department. She had her family has a horse ranch here in Cape Coral down this street that I have, about down this main road that I've driven past a million times. But we had Hurricane Ian here, like 3 years ago, going on 3 years, and it was very bad. But what surprised me was they just turned the horses loose out into the pasture. I mean, so they were free. They weren't tied up or anything, but they just because if they left them in the barn, there is a good chance the barn, could collapse right on top of them. So that's not a good idea. And it did part of it. So it was better that they weren't there, but they were all fine.
Wow.
Animals just know what to do, even though it was a horrific storm. And I mean, it went on for like 12 hours. It was really bad, but all their animals were just fine.
It's amazing. Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
talk to animals and how they survive and get through those situations.
Okay, now let's go on to Valerie. And um, I'd like to hear from the mysterious death of Junetta Plum, which I love that title, by the way.
Thank you. I'm just going to read from the first page or so, and just to give a sense of how it begins.
Mhm.
What is the worst thing that can happen? We could die. I kept that thought to myself. It wasn't the kind of thing you shared with a child, especially one as smart as Lovey. We rode in a crowded, smelly train headed for New York City, and neither of us was afraid of death. We'd seen too much of it creep up on those we loved. A sudden sore throat turned fatal. Lungs bleeding beet red, bodies in death as blue as a jaybird. They called it Spanish flu, purple death, and a half dozen other names no proper lady said in public. 7 years ago, it came for Lovey's mother, Alveda, leaving her 5-year-old wailing and alone until my father picked her up and brought her home. A year later, it came for my mother, Laura, and my brother, Robbie, who would be the same age as Lovey is now. I knew Alveda from school, She was smart, sweet, too quick to smile. A girl who loved and let herself be loved too easily, which was how some folks claim she got the baby in the first place. Some took it upon themselves to warn us about loose behavior passing down from mother to child. But there was nothing careless about Lovey. I've never seen a more serious child, one who rarely smiled and whose wide eyes always saw more than she let on. Lovey took nothing for granted and knew a lie when she heard one, so I never lied to her. Her eyes were red now and stinging like mine from the fumes. Our car was filled with locomotive smoke, the price you paid for not having the money or status to sit in the front of the train. The conductor threw us a sour look when he glanced around the car. He was a thin, dour man who smelled like onions, and his pale skin had a yellowish hue. He stared hard at Lovey, probably wondering if she belonged up front, then gave a careless shrug and punched our tickets. I hate it when people look at me like I'm some kind of a jigsaw puzzle, Lovey muttered after he'd gone. I knew what she meant. She'd heard more judgments based on notions about her race and color than any 12-year-old should hear. We'd had this conversation before. Well, you do have unique pieces, I said, trying to lighten things up. Unique pieces? I'm a child. You're a grown-up lady. Can't you come up with something better than that? Lovey wasn't having it. Half the time I forget you're a child, and half the time I forget I'm a grown-up lady, I said, which was the truth. She scrunched her lips together in a smile, like Alveda had, which brought her mother to mind, though they looked nothing alike. Alveda's skin was the color of pecans, Lovey's like almonds, close to that of her father, the fun-seeking son of the rich white man Alveda had worked for. Alveda had never actually told anyone who had fathered her child, but most of us had guessed. Had she loved this man, then too ashamed or afraid to admit it? What about Lovey crying there beside her as she died? Had she told her daughter who he was? Or assumed in her carefree way that she'd tell the child when she grew up? I pulled out the crumpled letter stuffed in the butt of my handbag. I write to offer my condolences for the loss of your father, my dear cousin Robert. I live in a brownstone left by my late husband. I need your assistance and support as soon as you can come. Family is the only thing we have. Times are hard and getting harder for those like us. If you have never been to Harlem, now is the time to come. Everything is new and beginning, yet nothing is ever as it seems. It was signed Junetta Plum, the dear cousin of my late father, who he had never bothered to mention. And I would have remembered a name like that. Okay. And that's just kind of edited first 2 pages, 3 pages.
Very cool.
Thank you.
That just opens up the world, you know, of what you're heading into there, the time and the place and the sites and the
Yeah. And you're right. It just, for me, just exploring and the need to go into reading about people's stories, reading what happened. Again, my own grandparents, and getting a sense of what it was like and what they faced. And that too was really important to my understanding the characters in the story.
Oh, I can't imagine. No. And I come from a huge family too. I mean, I have 45 first cousins, and that's just my mother's side.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are cousins that I grew up with and I'm super tight with, and there are cousins I've, met maybe once in my entire life, maybe. There are some that I haven't ever met. So that's an interesting, it's like I'm sure she's feeling comfortable because, it's a blood relative, but at the same time, she's a total stranger. So
Also,
Yeah.
it's right after enslavement, people were lost. You didn't
Mhm.
know where people were because families were sold, mothers were sold, brothers were sold, and people for the next 150 years, 60 years, 70 years, people were searching for people, which is what the story kind of revolves around. You didn't know where people were. And
Oh,
she, and that is part of the importance, part of the essence of the story is what was lost and what hopefully people regained. So people were snatching family where they could.
mhm.
And that was part of what I was trying to aim for in this, not in this particular path, but through the book, is the
Yeah.
loss that was found.
Hmm. Very interesting. So you've also written paranormal romances and children's books.
Written everything.
And then you and your husband write screenplays
Well,
and
no, my
TV.
husband's a screenwriter actually, and he
Right.
was he's written he's a professor now at NYU. He teaches screenwriting, and what Ellen was talking about in terms of theater and in terms of screenwriting in Hollywood is so true. We talk about it all the time. We have friends who are in Hollywood now, and it's really a different time. And in fact, he's done quite a few, films, some, television work, but we don't write anything together. We wouldn't dare. He has his place, I have mine. Novels are different. We read it, but it's such a different way to write. There were similarities, of course, but it's a whole, it's a different way of the business is so different and changed completely. And he's just happy he's teaching now because it's just such a different place.
Mm. Do you find it hard or easy to switch between genres, between romances and children's?
That's interesting because it all comes back to character and, to you come up kind of connect to the character and the character kind of takes you where it's going to go. For example, there's a big difference between my first PI series, she's a Tamara Hale is kind of a tough PI, and Harriet Stone, but they're both in first person. And of course, Odessa Jones, who is, a psychic. So, and so they're all different, but they're all, I guess, in some ways, a bit of me, although I'm really not psychic, but most of the time. But but I think that it just comes back to that, to the character and kind of exploring the character and finding and going from there. And the paranormal was I wrote it under a different name and but which was a mistake, I think. But in some ways but I haven't come back to it. It was under Savannah Wells. But for me, I finished a book, go to the next one, and that's what I'm really excited about, is what I'm working on at that particular point. So
Huh, okay. So Heather is a dog person and you're a cat person. Do you still have Junior?
yes, thank you he's here somewhere. He's actually my grandson's cat, and he's kind of follows my husband around like a dog. I mean, he's Richard's cat at this point, but and he's made his appearance in several books. His John was with me. Now he's in this. I mentioned him in this book, but he has a different name. But he was a big, kind of a big important character in the cozies. It's fun to write about a pet. And but no, he's here somewhere in the room, as a matter of fact. But yeah, so
Has your husband considered adapting any of your books as a screenplay?
other people, I have a couple of, being shopped, but the Odessa Jones, we'll see what happens. It's a different period, a different time. He's pretty much happy. He's working in just, in teaching and
Mhm.
but and he was Uptown Saturday Night was one of his first film many years ago. Let's do it
Oh,
again. A
wow.
lot of Bill Cosby stuff. So he's, we're both in our late 70s. So we've been around for a long time. But I don't, I think he kind of appreciates my work for what it is, and I certainly appreciate his for what it is. So there really hasn't been that kind of, well, plus you don't want to fight about something like that. Married writers, it's best to be in different areas because there is
Yeah.
writing is its own particular issues, but he really never has, and I wouldn't ask him to.
Mm.
So.
Yeah, happily my husband doesn't write, or we'd probably have a great deal of conflicts. But I think this book would, just like Ellen was talking about, a streaming, like a limited series streaming
Yeah.
I think this book would be really, really a good idea
Well,
for it.
yeah, well, this one I think probably more so the Odessa Jones series because it's cozies and the short. But this, I would love this, but it takes so much to do history. I mean, that's the problem with it. When you really get the production, it's anything historical is going to cost too much for
Cost
the
them
one
more,
to do.
yeah. But
And
people
that's
love them.
why, yeah. And it's all about that at this point.
Yeah,
But
true.
I love this. I love working on this series. And it's like I really love this character. I love the history involved. And I would love to see something. I sent it around to a couple of people, but you never know. But I would tend to think that they would stay hands off because it's so much stealing in the 1920s. And so much would have to be, you know. But for me, it's, you know, the joy of just writing the piece is what's important to me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, as for all of us as writers, you know, it always comes. It's the joy of writing.
Okay, well, I think now we should hear from Marshall and go from, 1926 New York to present day New York that's getting blown up by the 1159 bombers. So let's hear a part of the story.
Okay. The host had unmute. Okay, cool. How am I doing?
Great.
Um, so I'm going to read you the first very short one and a half page chapter of NYPD Red 8, subtitle The 1159 Bomber.
Mhm.
Um, I worked in the advertising business with James Patterson, and about 15 years ago, after I had about 4 books out, he called me and said, "You want to write a book with me?" And I go, "Well, it depends how much I have to pay you." I mean, because if we all write a book, it'll do okay. But if we all write a book with Jim, we will become #1 best-selling authors because he has a juggernaut and a budget, and it just shoots right to the top. So I wrote one based on his outline, and then I did something none of his authors have ever done before or since. I said, I have an idea for a series, and it's called NYPD Red, about a bunch of cops, elite cops, uh, who show up whenever the victims are rich and famous. Very important. And having written 6 with him as a collaborator. By the way, you all know Jim doesn't write 30 books a year, don't you? He
Yes, we do.
Santa doesn't make all the toys, so I'm an elf. But then after 6 books, we parted company amicably, and I wrote NYPD Red 7 and gave it a subtitle now, NYPD Red 8, which is amazing to me. It's got a fan base, and they're waiting for this, and they only have to wait 8 more days. And this one is called the 1159 Bomber. And let's see if you can track with me. 11:59 a.m. Anyway, the short opening chapter says Thursday, 11:03 a.m., Astoria, Queens. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of their lives. The grandmother, the mother, and the bride to be heading to the city to find the dress. We should go to Macy's, the grandmother said. They don't sell wedding gowns, Yaya, Carissa said. They should, the old woman said. We can go there for the bridesmaids' dresses. Maybe you can find Mr. Macy and tell him how to run his business. The mother tried to stifle a laugh. The grandmother remained stone-faced. So where are we going? She demanded. A little bridal boutique on Broad Street in the financial district. It sounds expensive, Yaya said. Can't you find a nice store in the people who don't have a lot of money district? Carissa exhaled slowly. Mom, my grandmother did the same to me when I was looking for my wedding dress, the mother said. It's a family tradition. What's the tradition? Carissa said, to make me even more crazy than I already am? Don't worry about it. It's a superstition. She's planting a seed. What seed? Dysphoria, the mother said. Carissa shook her head. Never heard of it. Dysphoria is the opposite of euphoria. It's a state where you're not too happy, you're uneasy, you're uncomfortable. Ma, I don't get it. I'm shopping for my wedding dress. Why shouldn't I be happy? Because what you're doing today should be done once in a lifetime, the mother said. And if you're too happy, then you might want to do it again. Carissa put her hands to her face and felt the tears trickle down her fingers. Then she wrapped her arms around her grandmother. I love you, Yaya. A smile spread across the old lady's face as she hugged her granddaughter. Sigapusi kid mo. At 11:18, the 3 a.m., I'm sorry, at 11:18, the three women left Yaya's house on 32nd Street in Astoria and made the 4-minute walk to the subway. At 11:29, they boarded the W train to Manhattan. At 11:43, they arrived at the 59th Street Lexington Avenue station and transferred to the downtown 5 train. At 11:58, they arrived at the Wall Street station. At 11:59, the bomb exploded. They died instantly. When I teach, I always ask my students, what's the purpose of the first chapter? And I usually get to set the tone, to establish characters, to give the reader an idea. And finally, I get the right answer. Purpose of the first chapter is to get people to turn the page to read the second chapter. And then when I ask what's the purpose of the second chapter, hands go up. I go, okay. So I just would like to ask if anybody would like to know the second. I'm not going to read it, but would anybody like to know what happens next? Okay.
I would. This
Uh,
is Chris.
it's pre-order. You can pre-order it now, ladies. It's oh my God, of all the NYPD Red books I have written, I mean, this is about a maniac who is, but by the way, the second bomb goes off at 11:59 a.m. the next day in a major department store in New York. And so now the cops know when the next bomb is going to go off. They don't know where. And New Yorkers know when the next bomb is going to go off, and they don't know where. And so one maniac who's trying to cripple the city successfully does that, because if you lived in New York City and you knew a bomb was going to go off at 11:59 a.m., you probably wouldn't leave the house from around 8:30 till a quarter to 5 at night. Yeah. And in one of the videos we did when we established what we used videos from COVID of New York, empty streets,
Yeah.
empty everything, empty thoroughfares, central everything. And so and of course there is always when I can, I find an interesting B plot, because cops are busy. Real cops don't work on only A plots. They usually have the entire alphabet and they're trying to juggle. And of course, being real people, they have personal problems. So this was so much fun to write. Um, Don't Tell Me How to Die, which is at this point I don't know if I think it's my all-time favorite book, but it's my all-time favorite accomplishment as a writer. This was the one I had to do. And so I didn't want to read any of that, because that one's a slow burn. It takes a while. You're reading it and you think, I'm reading a family drama. And then all of a sudden, and then you go, what? And I love that.
Yeah.
So, did you want to ask a question, Lisa, or should I? Tell me when to slow down.
I had a question. I mean, you're more or less a lifelong New Yorker. So how did you decide what you wanted to blow up in this book?
Oh, the easier question was that my first 5 books were about LAPD and basically the Hollywood homicide um, um, unit, and I killed a lot of people that I worked with in Hollywood. So it was easy. I mean, I'm not kidding. I barely changed the names. I mean, there's one character who like kind of looks, sounds, and feels like Harvey Weinstein. He just has a different name. Um, but I just what I did was I got inside the mind of of the crazy guy. So the first is the subway, which is to disrupt transportation. Then the next one is to disrupt commerce. And then the next one is to disrupt tourism. And then it keeps
Yeah.
in the next chapter we see the the bomber calling 911 to announce to tell the mayor that I'm going to destroy the city the way it destroyed my family. And his intent is to destroy the city. And so, yes, he's killing people, but as one of the cops says, anybody who's trying to destroy the city isn't going to be happy killing 6 or 12 or 24 people. He's going to want to ruin it. And oh God, so much fun to
Yeah.
this one. It was just so much fun to do because I, I believe I really one of the things I learned working for Patterson is like you need you can't have arch villains, mustache twirling and Lex
Yeah.
Luthor. You have to have smart people who are sociopaths, psychopaths, smart, crazy people, and then you have to have smarter cops. And my goal is always to like outsmart the reader. I was just if I was just at I was invited to Iceland Noir, which was can I tell everyone to just go to Iceland? And it was like, and it's the
It
darkest
is
time
on
of
my
there's
list.
about
Yeah.
there's about 6 minutes of of daylight, and and I noticed that there's a lot of one-on-one writers, I mean, George R. Martin was the headliner. So I noticed that a lot of the writers were like sitting on stage with their interviewer, waiting, and everybody's looking up at them. So when I got on, I had the guy who's NYPD detective who's interviewing me said, blah, 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 blah. Now here he is, Marshall Karp, but I'm not on stage. I'm nowhere. And then I'm in the middle of the audience with a microphone. I go, hey, I'm over here. I'm a crime writer. My job is to surprise you. Did I surprise you? And hey, doing that. When you write, don't you love when people say, I,
I didn't see
you
that
got
coming.
me. You got me.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
love it, right? I
Yeah.
think we all
Yeah.
do.
I love it when you have twists that it's like you totally didn't see that coming, but now that it's there, it makes perfect
Oh,
sense.
you have to leave clues, but
Yeah.
then they go, I didn't know that was a clue. And I gotta say, I love so far and what I've heard. And it's it, the diversity of writing style is so much fun too,
Yeah.
and thinking style,
That's what's
and
always fun about road rage.
and of course hair and makeup and choice of beverage, but that's besides it. Anyway,
Okay, well, we're gonna start running out of time here, so I'm gonna go on to Ellen and let's hear from Crescent City Christmas Chaos.
Oh boy, now for something completely different. I'm also reading from my computer. I don't know what that will look like to people watching. And let me. And by the way, I just have to say, it made me laugh because in my series, The Golden Motel Mysteries, that is set in California, I kill off a lot of the people I worked with too. It's very fulfilling. I think that's something that a lot of us who've worked in Hollywood enjoy about writing books. We get to kill off people we hated.
Yeah.
So. Okay, and so just a little setup. I'm reading a section that comes in a chapter or two in, and my protagonist is Ricky, and her adoptive parents are visiting, and she sees this as a time to garner more information about her birth parents. And the young woman, Lizette, is a friend of Ricky's newly discovered cousin. And then Mordaunt, who mentioned, is a jack of all trades who helps out at the Bonvie Culinary House Museum, where Ricky has her shop. And this is a cozy, so it's very different from what we heard so far. Okay. You guys talking about Charity Hospital? This came from Lizette, who happened to be standing next to them. There's a lady named Phyllis Gibbs who lives on my grandma's block who used to work there. I remember because there was this weird story about her. An obituary ran in the paper about her, and everyone thought she died, but it turned out to be someone with the same name. Isn't that freaky? Something sparked for Ricky. Very. Do you know how old this woman is? I'm wondering if she worked with my mom. Lizette shrugged. I don't know. Older than my mom, but maybe not as old as my gran. Yikes. A wide age range, but a good time outright, Ricky thought. Excuse me, I have to tell my mom about this. She separated from the others and texted her mother. Did you know a Phyllis Gibbs? Josepha quickly texted back, yes, worked at Charity, medical records. She passed away. No, she didn't. It was a mistake. What? A second later, Ricky's cell rang. What do you mean she didn't pass away? Are you telling me she's alive? Josepha didn't sound happy about the news. It's a long story, but she is, and she lives on, Ricky called to Lizette. What's your grandmother's street? Peony Place, Lizette called back, projecting over the carolers, who broke into a spirited version of God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. Peony Place, Ricky repeated into the phone. Mom, she might know something about my birth, especially if she worked in medical records. We have to see her. No. Josepha's forceful response took Ricky aback. She isn't a good person. I've no desire to see her ever again. Josepha ended the call. Ricky stared at her phone. Her parents had always been supportive of her quest to identify her birth parents and still seemed to be, except when it came to Josepha's past at Charity. What'd your mom say? Lizette, curious, had wandered over. She said Phyllis wasn't a good person. Lizette let out a chortle. Oh, according to Grandmama, she's not. Gram's all about a rose garden. Someone's been stealing them, and she's sure it's Phyllis. Gram says she's low class, which is about the worst insult she can give anyone. And she's making my dad put in security cameras just to catch her stealing the roses. Ricky took this in. Do you know Phyllis's exact address? I can figure it out. Lizette tapped on her phone. Oh, I found it on my map app. I'll text it to you. What's your cell number? Ricky and Lizette exchanged numbers, then Ricky searched the room until she spotted Mordaunt. She hurried to him. Do you have plans tonight? Not until later. I'm going dancing with Zella. A dreamy expression colored the tour guide's long face. It was the look he got every time he mentioned girlfriend Zella, the unconventional artist who ran Bonvie's cafe and was Ricky's closest friend. Great. I'm paying a visit to one of my mother's former co-workers, and I want you to come with me. I could use your PI instincts. Ricky pursed her lips, her expression determined. Judging by Mom's reaction to the name Phyllis Gibbs, I have a feeling in my gut that this woman might hold the clue to my past. That's it.
Wow, that does sound interesting. So we first met Ricky in Bayou Book Thief when she was
Yes.
trying to reinvent her life in
Yes.
and she has a vintage cookbook business.
Yeah.
So what got you interested in vintage cookbooks?
I collect them. And what happened is I had a few of them and 30, but since I've written the story, people keep giving them and I don't know how to say no because I want them all. And I have like I probably have a couple of hundred. And the irony, and I gave this to Ricky, is that I don't love to cook. I'm not really a cook, but now that I ended up writing culinary cozy mysteries just completely accidentally. But what's fun is that in each of these books, I find some recipes from my collection and then kind of adapt them. So the recipes that are included in the book are from my own cookbook collection. And sometimes I figure like you have to have one bad Jello recipe, and if you're going to use vintage cookbooks. So I actually made one. It was a complete disaster, but I put it in the book and said, "Don't make this recipe." Um, so yeah, that's really, because I went to school in New Orleans, I spent a lot of time there, and it's really my favorite city, except for New York and now LA, my three favorite cities. I really like to celebrate the city and the people and the environment because I think it's so wonderfully unique and special.
So do you cook recipes out of these books? I mean,
Yes,
that's
I only do it for my series. It's weird. And it's fun though because you have to adapt because to me like the cookbooks and Ricky is the same, my protagonist. I gave her this thing that the interest in them is come from like a sociological perspective because like the cookbook is so identified with the time period when it's written. Like if I have some from the 30s that are, budget cookbooks. One of my favorites is the photoplay cookbook. And the other thing is that cookbook when for a long time was spelled as two words. And I always get grammatic people they say, oh, it's misspelled. No, it was two words and it was combined somewhere, I think, in the 40s or maybe the 50s even. And it's the photoplay cookbook of the stars, and it's from 1928. And what's really cool about it is if anyone knows the film business, 1928 was the pivotal year when there was a transition from talkies to sound. So the recipes by these, which are probably all the MGM publicists, are like some like Vilma Banky, who was a silent film star, and then Greta Garbo, who transitioned into talkies quite beautifully. And that's one of my favorite books in my collection.
I think my sister had found one that might have been called the I Hate to Cook book when we
Oh,
were
that was at Irma Bombeck. Yes, that was a very,
oh
very
what?
popular one. Yeah. I've got one from I think the 60s that's How to Keep 'Em After You Caught 'Em. The which I just such a great title. And it's a little tongue in cheek. But when you look at it also like I have to adapt, I have to like adapt because, ovens are different now and if you have recipe
Yeah.
and ingredients don't exist and you're like, what is Finnan Haddie? And why is that in so many recipes? And what was really fun is that I found a lot of like thoughts for buffets, and I found like three or four of these at my local bookshop, and I'll buy them and I'll use them as giveaways. And it tells me that like in the mid 1960s, buffets were very popular in Studio City in California. That's because this
Hmm.
cookbook you find a lot of them. And then as people get old, now the cookbooks, it's harder to find really older cookbooks, because people are time is passing, and so something that someone who had a cookbook from the 1930s may be long gone at this point. I don't know how to put a fine point on that, but
Well, tell me so I know. What is a canapé?
it's an appetizer really. It's and sometimes they were made in my mom's day. They had the little tiny cut. If that's my dog barking. They had little. Shh, sorry.
Sorry.
They were shaped because people played a lot of bridge and stuff. You could get these really small cookie cutters that were actually you cut bread and they were like spade and a heart and a
Oh.
diamond. And so people would cut bread and put some on them. So
Hmm.
I'm not sure if there was a specific difference between an appetizer and a canapé or if it's just another word for it. But I always associate it with those little t tiny uh cutters, bread cutters.
Huh. And you have to explain to me what is a cater waiter?
That is, I don't know if that's a real expression. I feel like it is, or I made it up. And it was when I worked for Martha. And I was just on a podcast recently because they brought that book back out, Entertaining, that I was in and participated in. And it's what we did is I helped cater. We'd be at work in the kitchen. And so I'd help prepare the food that was going out, whether it was, appetizers, then I'd work the buffet station, or if it was sit down, so you transition from working in the kitchen to waiting. So you were a caterer, like you're working as a
Hmm.
caterer in the kitchen, and then you were a waiter. So you were a cater waiter.
But was this like a side job or is
Oh
this
yeah, no, it was
part
a
of
side job. It was, it was my days when I was transitioning from
okay.
acting to writing, and I'd go up and work with her, and I'm having all these memories. I worked a party with Paul Newman, and I had auditioned for
Wow.
him when I was 14, and then I was suddenly bartending with him at a fundraiser with his wife threw for Planned Parenthood. I worked like Pia
Oh, okay.
Zadora's fifth anniversary party. And then I interviewed her when I was doing magazine articles. And I told her, and she was like, oh, she said, I hated that party. I did not want to be there. And the best part of it was the food.
Well, that's nice. So back to your book. Are Ricky or Virgil based on anyone in particular?
No. Well, Virgil, I see Jesse Williams, who I think is like one of the handsomest people in the world. And so visually it's that. And I just kind of a overall sense of like the chef world. I've always been kind of fascinated by that. And Ricky, there's an element of her that's a little of me, but not so much. Just a lot of it from, the character that's most like me is my new series, because she's a recovering sitcom writer, in the Golden Motel Mysteries. So, but no, they're fictional, just created from my brain.
Cool. Well, I think we're running a little over on time, but that's not a big deal because we always do. But I want to do some round robin questions with you guys. First of all, what are you working on? No, first, plotter or pantser? Go back
Plotter.
to Ellen Plotter.
Oh, I'm an
Valerie?
outliner. I think a lot of TV people are.
Yeah.
Plotter, 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 murder mystery. Better know who did it.
Okay. Valerie?
I outline
So plotter,
a
basically.
plot. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
The other one
Heather?
is, yeah,
I'm somewhere in the middle. I started out my career as a total pantser, and
cancer.
um, it worked really well for me, but I wrote myself into a lot of really sticky corners, and over the years, kind of evolved and learned that I need to know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And so but allow my stories to kind of take me where they want to go at times too. But it's good to have a path.
Agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
that's
Chris has some questions for you guys from Facebook. So I'll let her relay them. Chris, you're on mute.
Okay, there we go. Am I unmuted? Okay,
Yep.
great. The one of the questions was how, Marshall, did you grow up with sisters?
No,
No.
two brothers. In fact, when my daughter was born, we only had a boy's name because there had only been one boy, one girl born in our family line in 90 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Her
Wow.
name, my daughter's name was supposed to be Joshua, and then it took 3 days to come up with a name, Oh, long story. And then I told her what her name could have been. Why didn't you call me that, Dad? I said, "Wait." She said, that's such a cool name. I said, well, you were 2 days old. We didn't know that you'd be this cool. You have to carry. Oh, by the
Well,
way, hey, by the way, my daughter just became a #1 best-selling author. She wrote a book on retirement called From Work to What's Next. It's
Oh,
all about transitioning, not about money.
Oh,
It's like blew me away.
cool.
Oh,
great.
that's cool.
I adore my daughter. And my son's cool too, but mother-daughter stuff. Oh, God.
So, another question had to do like with the gender reveal stuff, which I find fascinating too. I follow all those bloopers but do you research and use real gender reveal ideas, or do you actually sort of brainstorm weird gender reveal ideas of your own
Yeah,
to, incorporate?
I mean, I did a lot of research. I looked at Pinterest a lot, but just taking bits and pieces. And the theme for my fictional gender reveal was pistols and pearls, which is absolutely absurd when you think about, a gender reveal. But it was fun, and it was fun to take something over the top, but also set it in this dark, very dark situation. And so, yeah, so it started out, quite over the top, but really it's a story of siblings and family loyalty and what you will do for those
Well,
that you.
I had to laugh. My daughter just had a baby and they did a gender reveal and they did the cake one, and
That's
my
reasonable, right?
my daughter's mother-in-law said, "How did that cake know?" I'm like, what? So I thought it was the funniest thing anybody ever said. I mean, she's a very smart lady, but
Yeah,
she was just like flabbergasted.
that's hilarious.
Um, and so then one of the other questions is, do I loved what you said, Valerie, about the fact that a lot of Black families are looking for people, that they've lost over the years. And I've thought about the fact that a lot of people do that in general. I mean, genealogy and genealogy research is one of the biggest things going right now because
Well, yeah,
everybody wants their roots. Everybody wants to know what
true, where they come from.
they're
But I
from.
think this also, with 1926 was only about 60 years from enslavement. So that meant that it was right at, I mean, 60 years is nothing. Um, Take it from
Do
me.
you find that that goes through the
And
theme
so it's like
of
even more intense, certainly then than it would be then, of course, and because everything, families were so rooted apart in so many ways. And one parent, what was the thing that happened to families? Is what happened to my mother? What happened to my child? What happened? And that was much of it. Particularly after Reconstruction too. It was Reconstruction, then of course Jim Crow. And
You know,
people,
and I just,
what? Yeah, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say my grandfather disappeared in 1933, and he was a
Yeah,
low-level
yeah,
Jewish.
that whole period. Yeah.
Ironically, I'm mobbed up on two sides, I love to say, because I'm half Jewish and half Italian. And my grandfather, and it leaves you with a question. People would say, "Oh, are you related to so and so?" And even as a child, I would say, "I don't know, maybe," because you never know if they went off and started another family or.
Yeah, much of it was just being sold away.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
you had no control over your life.
Yeah.
And 60 years before in 19, it was like it was over. It- Everything is gone. And 1865 and then 1875, of course, was and then it's over. And so many things change for people. And that's kind of what at the root of what I'm writing about during this period is it certainly the Harlem Renaissance was a joyous time for the roaring 20s and all that. But it was more than that. And so for so many families.
Well,
First
it
World War.
also,
First
I
World
have to.
War, that was women. So many things happened during that period.
I'm so
Women
sorry, but I
suffrage.
was going to say it's
Oh, go
also
ahead.
people of that age could have been enslaved.
Yeah, they would have been, or had their grandparents certainly would have been. If they weren't, their parents were. And
Yeah.
so that would be, they would have memories of that trauma, generational trauma, which we've all,
So,
that
Ellen,
is what's happens to people is,
Hey guys,
I have,
well,
when
I'm
I
sorry.
worked in Hollywood, I worked with Jester Hairston,
Uh-huh.
who was born in 1901,
Ah,
and
yeah.
Oh, wow.
his he would tell us stories about his grandparents were slaves,
Yeah, oh yeah, people have
and
memories, but not
he
all families were like in my book. This is also some people were freed. My particular family and Harriet's family, they were everyone's family had a different train, a different path, a different place that they were born in, and a different life to live. In Connecticut, for example, which is where Harriet comes from, there wasn't the same kind of enslavement as there was in Mississippi. And so it's all of these are different stories. And one of the things that I say in my author's note is we really have to, no matter who you are or where you come, you have to understand your part in what America is. And that is an essential part of learning and understanding our country. Everyone has a piece of it. Everyone has a place in it. And that's what we have to understand and appreciate about our country. And I don't mean to go off on a rant.
no, that's interesting. That's interesting. I have one question for Ellen too, and that has to do with I mean, you write funny. You
Yeah,
are funny.
great
Thank you.
dialogue.
Do
I
you
try.
do you think of funny things to incorporate in your books, or is it sort of like organic? Does it just
It's
come up and
it's
be funny?
it's both. My natural inclination is find humor, but also then I work, if I feel like a book needs something else, I will find it. Like there's a scene in Very Woodsy Murder where the characters are at a square dance. I needed to get some information. I needed an attempt on someone's life, and well, how do you make that funny? Well, you do a kind of Nazi-driven, not a Nazi-driven, but you do a slit, a square dance where the protagonist has no interest in being there, but she's going to be in, and then the caller becomes like strident. It becomes like issuing orders, like out of your left, turn to your right, and meanwhile she's been secretly drugged, so she's going around and it's like out of your corner, on your, is this, so I look for those moments, to give it, uh
Capitalize upon.
yes,
Yeah, you
exactly.
definitely
So
capitalize upon.
wherever I can, especially if there's something dry happening, I look for that. But it's also, it's my survival mechanism. I mean, humor is a survival mechanism. And if
Yes.
you work in a room and you're at 3 o'clock in the morning with, 10 guys and your writing partner, you really get a load of what a survival mechanism it is for everyone.
Marshall, do you write short like Patterson? I mean, he writes short.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I try to write like a screenwriter, which is
Mm.
um, Jim doesn't do any description, but I try to write character and hopefully weave the character and the plot together. But I purposely write what I would call popcorn chapters so that you're at the end of the chapter and well, now I got to find out what. It's really not about writing, Chris. It's about editing. You
Right.
know,
Mm.
And
it's
so does everyone else
kill
think,
your darlings.
Yeah.
does
I
everyone else think along those lines? I mean, I've written 8 novels. I've published 8 novels, and I tend to think about shortening what I'm writing because I think the attention span of my readers, you're thinking of your readers, is more like fast clips of stuff. And so you want to keep them turning the pages and you want to make it, but in a book like Valerie's, maybe we're, looking to draw them more into the characters and the things. So does
I
everyone?
don't think, I mean, it's all about like, I always have an uh-oh at the end, a chapter, and but it's also coming from, it's like I always say it's like for a particular cozy, it's kind of like a cast, like I give the example of Castle, where you have the story of the week, and then you have the ongoing relationships of the characters,
Mhm.
and it's just finding the what will hook people in that. And I don't write short on purpose, or I don't think I do it at all. I mean, I do want to edit and make sure something isn't dragging, but if I really want to describe something, I do. And I think that's also my genre is more forgiving of that.
Well, I used to be an editor, a magazine editor, so it's that kind of tightening up. But I tend to do that naturally when I write a piece and then I go through it and this is just splat, kill the darlings and all of that. But the reality is you have to know what to expand and what to cut. But and find the places that it will work and not work. But I try to be as tight as I can. But then you can get too tight with it. So
Yeah.
there's nothing,
you know,
it's so lean
Chris,
that there's nothing for the reader to really enjoy. And that's
sometimes
yeah,
sometimes
that's that.
a 4,000 word chapter can become
Too
three
much.
chapters.
Mhm.
A lot of
Exactly. And
times
that's always nice
you
when
just my
yeah.
first book was 115 chapters. It was 140,000 words.
Mhm,
Wow.
My average,
Oh, wow.
and those were long chapters. And most of my books are like 70.
mhm,
If they're 80, if they're 80,000, 90,000 words, they could be 80 chapters.
mhm,
And
mhm,
it's a way to get the reader through.
mhm, mhm.
And if I have a chapter that's too long, I say,
Cut it.
where's the where's the cut? It's like
Mhm,
when you're in film or television. Where do you put the commercial?
mhm,
Somewhere where you don't want them
mhm.
Well,
to
I
be.
have one more question for everybody, and then I think we're
Yeah.
out of time. I know
We
I
are
can,
out of
we're
time.
way out of time, but I thank you for taking so much time for us. Do you, are you, are your head editors or agents hands-on with you, or do you, I mean, do they come back like I've had books where I had no notes, and I've had books where I had 10 pages single spaced worth of notes about what I needed to consider, especially with my thrillers. My thrillers were beasts that I had to kind of work. It was switching from a cozy kind of writer to a thriller writer was a big leap for me. And
Mhm.
I transitioned well. I was telling everyone I got an Anthony nomination for my first thriller, but I lost to Louise Penny, and that was
Boo!
okay.
It
I
sounds
beat her
rigged.
once.
That was rigged.
I won. I beat her once.
Did you? How?
I
Wow.
did.
Wow.
Dang.
For an
Wow.
Agatha.
Yeah.
She was
Wow.
very gracious
So,
about
but do
it.
you get a lot of feedback from your editors and things to help you?
Right.
I mean, a lot of people say now you don't get help from editors. I found they helped me, so I just curious.
I work with a freelance editor who I met 4 books ago, and he's been terrific. When I was working with Patterson, there was an in-house editor, and you know, I rely a lot on editorial comment, and you know, and sometimes you say no, leave it as is, and sometimes I'll write back to my editor and he'll go like, "What was I thinking?" And if any of you are looking for a freelance editor, this guy in Denver, Michael Carr, is just brilliant. And when you look at his CV, it's 7, 8, 9, 10 pages long. He's worked with everybody in
I
every
had an editor
genre.
one time tell me on a scene I had written in one of my bird watching mysteries that who would believe a mountain lion in Estes Park? And I went, and then I thought, she's young. She's from New York. She was
Yeah.
born in Taipei. She probably's never been west of the Mississippi. If I didn't set it up well enough that she believed it, it was my fault as a writer. I needed to go back and fix the setup, not blame her for not knowing. But that feedback, I think, is so important because you don't know you missed it if somebody doesn't point it out.
I think it depends on the editor. And I think also there's, I mean, I don't have a freelance editor. Now I'm down to like one beta reader because I think I kind of hit 10,000 words. So I'm kind of know. And one thing I was going to say about the previous thing, and then is that I like my books to be an immersive experience. And when I read, I like it to be immersive. That's why I love historical mysteries. That's my sweet spot is them. I want to feel like I'm in another world. And if that requires a little more description from me for my books, I'm willing to take the chance. And my editors, I have editors who are very hands-on. I have copy editors I want to kill. But
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Copy editors, yeah.
I
I had
love
a
a
and
book.
some
copy
who are
editor.
wonderful, some who
I
are
I had a
love a
wonderful.
copy.
book that I'm upset to end the book. I mean, I have read books where I get to the last 10 pages and I want to read them, but then I don't want to read them. I'll set them down and wait because I don't want to have it end. I don't want it to end.
Heather, I feel like I've steamrolled over you a little bit.
Yes.
I'm really fortunate. I do have a very collaborative relationship with my editor, and I'm really grateful for that. Because by the time I turn in the book, I just feel like I don't know which way is up or down anymore. I don't know if it's any good. I don't know. I just don't know. And so having that outside bird's eye view of my story with fresh eyes really helps me
Yeah.
see through the weeds. And we are very collaborative. We get on the phone a lot during a project and talk things through. And, for me, it's a real gift because, I don't know how you guys feel, but when you get to that certain point of working on a project, when the self-doubt kind of creeps in, having
Yeah.
an extra set of eyes and letting you know that you've been here before, you'll get through it, you're a good writer, and that encouragement as well as the guidance is really um, really important to me. So I'm very fortunate.
There's
Heather,
nothing
are you
better than reading your draft and going, "Oh, it's so much better than I thought it was."
Heather, are you talking about paralyzing self-doubt?
Yeah,
That
no, is that like just me?
that yeah, it never happened to me.
Never happened to you? No, that
Oh,
would.
I had to just one thing. I had a young editor in Oregon who, copy editor, and she wrote back to me, you said he went to the lobby of his apartment building and there was the night doorman. Don't you mean a night watchman? I'm like, have you ever been to New York City, girl? They're called doormen. They have a union. Oh my God. Hey, we could go on forever because
Yeah.
some of us we're not just writers. We talkers.
Great. I
Interesting.
hear
I
all
just
night.
learned something.
Thank you. I love
Learning things
Hey,
different
guys,
from everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
fun.
It's
Yes.
been so
Thank you.
interesting listening to everyone. Thank you. And really,
thanks,
I've
guys.
Thank
picked up
you.
things.
Yes, thank you so much for being our guest tonight and sharing all your wisdom with us. And just for our readers, I want to let you know Rogue Reads is on hiatus in December, but we'll be back on January 12th with Kyra Ruda, Valerie Burns, Jennifer Chow, and Michelle.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you all so much. Have some wonderful holidays coming up here. So,
I can't wait to read every book I heard tonight.
Yeah.
They're wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
Valerie, where do you live?
Montclair,
Oh,
Montclair, NJ?
Montclair, New Jersey,
yeah.
right across, right close, Montclair, New Jersey. Everybody, half of Brooklyn lives in Montclair at this point.
Hey, Valerie.
I know, I saw it.
right
Rutgers, I
there.
saw it. I said, Rutgers.
Well,
Yeah.
when you're talking about Astoria, that's where my whole Italian family all lived in Astoria. So I was like, I know exactly the It's like old home week on this panel.
Yeah, I know New York, I love New York and it's
And I've heard of South Dakota.
I'm in
My
Iowa.
dad was born and
Iowa,
raised in
Iowa.
Springfield, New
Iowa.
Jersey.
I've
I
heard
can't
of-
wait to look up your town, Heather, in
Yeah.
Grant Wood territory. As soon as I'm going to be on Wikipedia after my Zumba class, which
Are
is
you
where I go
near
from
the
here.
Cow Palace or the Corn Palace?
You know what? That's where my dad was born. Was
The
or
Corn Palace.
grew up in Mitchell, South Dakota. Yeah, it's a
Oh, that's
palace
so-
made out of corn, and it's fantastic.
And they make it really like artworks, famous artworks in corn on this Corn Palace. It's crazy. It's
Oh,
It's wild. Yeah,
put that on the
a lot of
bucket
time
list.
in Mitchell growing up. Yeah.
Another world.
You
Well-
guys, right on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody. Good night.
Have a nice Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.